The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Robert Tan. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares were mostly lower on Friday as uncertainty grew about what will happen next after a U.S. court blocked many of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs. The ruling at first raised hopes in financial markets that Trump will not be able to drive the economy into a recession with these tariffs. However, the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit on Thursday allowed Trump to temporarily continue collecting the tariffs under the emergency powers law while he appeals the trade court's decision. The Nikkei 225 and Hong Kong's Hang Seng dropped more than 1%. South Korea's Kospi slipped 0.79% and China's Shanghai Composite edged down 0.30%. Singapore's Straits Times Index also declined by 0.24%. Bucking the regional trend, Australia's ASX 200 managed a 0.28% gain. And in the currency market, the US dollar posted gains against several Asian currencies, climbing 0.56% against the South Korean won, 0.27% versus the Thai baht, and 0.14% against the Singapore dollar. However, it lost ground to the Japanese yen, slipping 0.24%, and flat with a downward bias against the Hong Kong dollar and Australian dollar. Gold prices, meanwhile, fell 0.64%. In the oil market, West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 0.28%, while Brent crude slipped 0.33%. Dubai crude was flat with a slight uptick. And in the crypto space, Bitcoin rose 0.52%, while Ethereum dipped 0.20%. President Bongbong Marcos has approved a new law aimed at making the Philippine capital market more attractive and competitive for investors. Special Assistant to the President for Investments and Economic Affairs, Frederick Goss, said the passage of the measure sends a clear message to both domestic and global investors that the Philippines is committed to building deeper, more efficient capital markets. But the President vetoed two provisions of the measure. These include the removal of tax exemptions for foreign investors earning from Philippine accounts in dollars. He also vetoed a new rule that would make bettors themselves pay documentary stamp tax on games like Lotto. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto reminds the National Tax Research Center of its mission to build a tax system that is simple, transparent, and compassionate, and to make sure that the government can fund its promised projects without passing the bill to the next generation. Speaking at the NTRC 65th anniversary, Recto lauded the agency's work of doing the often complex but important job of making sense of taxes. The NTRC is an attached agency of the Department of Finance. Its function is to conduct research to improve the country's tax system and promote greater awareness among the Filipino people. GCH Investments Director resigns immediately after Robinson's Retail Holdings Incorporated, or RRHI, owned by Bilyonaryo Gokongwei, buys back 15.8 billion pesos worth of shares. In a disclosure, RRHI says that Scott Anthony Price and Curtis Liu tendered their resignation on Friday. This is in pursuant to the sale of the shares of GCH Investment in RRHI. RRHI recently reacquired more than 300,000 common shares from Tantoco's GCH Investments. This is equivalent to 22.2% of RRHI's outstanding shares. Meanwhile, DoubleDragon's Hotel 101 Global is entering Saudi Arabia with a bold plan to build hotels with a total of 10,000 rooms at 37.5 billion pesos. DoubleDragon, led by Bilyonaryo's Injap Sia and Tony Tangkaktiong, is partnering with the Horizon Group. The move supports the kingdom's vision 2030 and sharpens Hotels 101's value proposition ahead of its Nasdaq listing. Tapping into Saudi Arabia's booming tourism, the 10,000 rooms will be distributed at an average of 500 rooms per condotel in several sites, including Jeddah and Riyadh. ACEN Corporation will enter the offshore wind sector in Camarines Sur. This is through the acquisition of a 25% minority stake in a 1,000 megawatt offshore wind power project in the province. The project is being developed by Danish firm Copenhagen's Infrastructure Partners. The Bilyonaryo Ayala-led firm says in a disclosure that ACEN signed an agreement with CIP's Growth Markets Fund for the planned investment. CIP was the first 100% foreign-owned entity awarded with energy service contracts by the Department of Energy in 2023. Listed real estate developer Megaworld Corporation fully transitioned its offices, hotels, lifestyle malls, and residential properties to 100% renewable energy. This is part of its sustainability initiatives. The shift covers 54 commercial properties owned by Megaworld and listed under its real estate investment trust, MREIT Incorporated. These include 26 office towers, 15 lifestyle malls and retail establishments, and 8 hotels in Uptown Bonifacio, Eastwood City, McKinley Hill, and McKinley West, among others. The Department of Agriculture will retest a shipment of sugar flagged for having bacteria levels too high for human consumption. Paolo Barcelon reports.
Robert, the Sugar Regulatory Administration says that the sugar shipment seized yesterday contained levels of mesopheric bacteria which are way above the level fit for human consumption. SRA Administrator Luis Pablo Azcona says the shipment of bottlers grade sugar, which is usually used for soft drinks and other sweet beverages, contained 3,775 colony-forming units or CFU per 10 grams, way above the 200 CFU limit considered safe for human consumption. In 2022, the Food and Drug Administration earlier set limits on allowable CFUs for sugar products. Agriculture Chief Francisco Tiu Laurel has ordered a retest of samples from the shipment.
So that is considered now not fit for human consumption. But I told them to retest just to be sure. Diba? Kasi yun ang problema. Pero kahapon nga, nag-usap kami ni Presidente at nabanggit din na rin kay DOC Commissioner na ang gusto ni Presidente kung hanggat may mahuli at pwedeng pamigay sa tao.
Robert, mesophilic bacteria comes in different forms and some thrive in moderate temperatures such as E. coli, lactobacillus, and salmonella. These bacteria may cause various health effects ranging from gastrointestinal diseases to food poisoning. The FDA circular says good manufacturing practices can help reduce bacteria to acceptable levels. Now, Robert, the shipment is now in customs custody and authorities are also blacklisting the owner of the shipment for misdeclaring part of it as sweetening powder to avoid higher tariffs. Azcona also says sugar supplies in the market are stable, citing that local production has exceeded the year's targets despite intense temperatures this year. He says the country has already produced over 1.9 million metric tons, up from government's target of 1.7 million. Robert?
Okay, thank you for that report, Paolo Barcelon. Meanwhile, we're taking a short break. The biggest business stories from around the country are up next. You're watching Business Brief. The Department of Trade and Industry formally opens the 3-day Food Festival 2025 at SM Megamall. Let's get updates from our reporter Sujin Kim in Mandaluyong City. Go ahead, Sujin.
Robert, unlike last year's National Food Fair, which focused on bottled products, this year's festival features over 250 MSMEs with freshly cooked dishes from all 18 regions. The Department of Trade and Industry invited wholesale and retail buyers, including cafes, restaurants, and hotels to explore the country's heritage-inspired offerings. All exhibiting MSMEs are DDI registered and participate for free. This initiative is part of a wider effort to boost market access for small businesses and increase sales performance after the previous food fair recorded a 49% sales growth. From just 5 trade shows last year, DTI is now targeting 12 for 2025. One of the event's main highlights is the launch of the DTI Malikaing Pinoy website and app, a digital platform that will serve as a national database for the country's creative talent, from musicians and designers to animators, game developers, and digital artists. To support the nationwide digitalization drive, ICT Secretary Henry Aguda was also present, emphasizing the role of digital platforms in linking the country's 7,600 islands and helping MSMEs scale beyond geographic limits. Trade Secretary Roque continues to push for the development of the creative industry. The sector generated 1.94 trillion in 2024, with plans to surpass 2 trillion in the coming years. And those are latest updates from Mandaluyong City. Back to you, Robert.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. Meanwhile, White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett reports 3 trade deals are almost done and he expects more to come. Hassett dismissed a U.S. trade court ruling on Wednesday that blocked most tariffs after ruling that President Trump had overstepped his authority. The official is confident the Trump administration would win on appeal.
But Trump does always win these negotiations because we're right. We're right that America has been mishandled by other governments, that our tariffs are taking them to the table, and they're coming in with massive concessions, opening up their markets to our products and lowering their tariffs on us. And so this trade negotiation season has been really, really effective for the American people. And it's unfortunate that people would attack it as the journalists did or the way the judges just did. You know, that these activist judges are trying to slow down something right in the middle of really important negotiations. And the idea that the fentanyl crisis in America is not an emergency is so appalling to me that I'm sure that when we appeal, that this decision will be overturned.
Importer uncertainty ahead of the vital holiday ocean shipping season remains high as the Trump administration continues its legal battle on its trade tariffs. Jean Soroka, executive director at the Port of Los Angeles, said business is softer than usual going into the traditional ocean shipping season for back to school, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas merchandise. He expects the port's May volume to be down by double-digit percentages. The Port of Los Angeles is the #1 ocean gateway for goods from China. Trump slapped 145% tariffs on China last month, halting many shipments of goods to the United States. Foreign enrollees are lining up to leave Harvard as U.S. visa restrictions under President Donald Trump rattle higher education institutions. The school's immigration office reports a flood of transfer inquiries, fearing deportation or denial of re-entry. Nearly 1/3 of Harvard's student body comes from abroad, many of whom are now skipping graduation, canceling travel plans, or reconsidering their future in the U.S. Even domestic students are looking to leave. A federal judge temporarily halted the ban, but the uncertainty continues to erode confidence in the U.S. as an academic hub. Harvard has 30 days to challenge the proposals through a more extended government review. A first-of-its-kind fire-resilient community is unveiled in Escondido, California, just north of San Diego. The Dixon Trail neighborhood is the first in the country to be fully fire-mitigated above the state's requirements to prevent wildfire spread. The 64-home neighborhood unique as each home is equipped with research-backed technology and fire mitigation to protect against direct flame contact, radiant heat, and embers. This will help reduce the likelihood of a wildfire spread. The homes have a 5-foot defensible space, fire-rated roofs, and non-combustible siding, among others. The estimated cost for one fire-resilient home is just over $1 million. We're taking a short break. Business Brief will be right back. Philippine Airlines is entering a new chapter in its post-pandemic recovery with plans to upgrade its fleet and expand its international reach. With the appointment of its new president, Richard Nuttall, and executive vice president and COO, attorney Carlos Luis Fernandez, PAL has an upcoming delivery of 9 Airbus A350-1000 aircraft. These fuel-efficient jets will enable the flag carrier to launch new non-stop routes, particularly to North America and Europe. And in 2024, the flag carrier owned by Ultra Bilyonaryo Lucio Tan posted a net income of $151.1 million. The Philippine Stock Exchange warns retailer Megamart that it could be locked out of trading if it misses another reporting deadline. Led by Bilyonaryo businessman Injapsia, the company failed to file its first quarter 2025 report by the May 20 deadline. Its shares will be suspended starting June 2 if it misses the May 30 extension. Megamart was among firms already penalized earlier this month for missing 2024 filings. Aboitiz Power is ushering its coal plants into the digital age. Under its project Arcangel, the firm is scaling up artificial intelligence and data analytics across facilities in Luzon and the Visayas. Already active in Mindanao, the upgrade enhances plant efficiency, reliability, and outage prediction through smart monitoring tools. Launched with partners Recto, Next, and Schneider Electric, the program includes a unified operations center and predictive systems to cut downtime and optimize fuel use. Aboitiz Power says smarter baseload plants will help ensure stable and affordable power amid rising energy demand and climate risks. Philippine shares return into the negative territory after falling for the second straight day. The PSE index ended lower by more than 1% to close at 63.41, finishing the day as the fourth worst performer in Asia. Among the sectoral indices, only mining and oil ended in the green, with holding firms falling the most at nearly 2%. Decliners outpaced advancers 118 to 76. Total value turnover reached 40 billion pesos. Week on week, the PSE fell by more than 1%. And among the day's most active stocks, only Bank of the Philippine Island ended in the green after it rose by 0.8%. Blue Marine Resorts, meanwhile, fell the most at more than 7%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 55.57 against the greenback, strengthening from previous close of 55.73. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert Tan. Join us again next week as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.